The resource group has decided to partner with Solver simply because we did our due diligence and we found that they are really sort of the class of the field when it comes to BI, business intelligence, and sort of key performance metrics for your company. So with that, Alex, if you would please take it away and let's go from there. Thanks so much.
Thanks so much, Craig, and thank you everyone for joining today. What I'll do is I'll quickly go through a PowerPoint just to kind of provide the high-level aspects of what our various components do and how it would look within your suite, and spend the majority of the time in the demonstration itself, building reports, running them from an end user's perspective, and showing you the entire suite. About that. So as a company, giving you a few bullet points, we're based in Los Angeles, a little over, actually at this point, 1,500 customers. We are on the Gartner Magic Quadrant list, and we're really the only tool in our space, at least on the Magic Gartner, that has that live integration to Dynamics. So that's our specialty. As you'll see today, you'll have all of the modules from Great Plains at your disposal for reporting and budgeting needs. Now, the actual tool itself has 4 areas. It's reporting, so it's drag and drop, live with Excel, but it's connected to a database. So no more formulas, no more linking in Excel. What you'll see is everything's pulled from a database and then automated. We also have an ad hoc reporting tool for quick on-the-fly analysis. And from an execution standpoint, you're going to be able to do that in Excel, on the web, and we also have mobile apps, both in Google Play and in the Apple Store. And then finally, you can distribute the reports using our report publisher, which is basically an automated push of the reports to end users. And you can convert them to PDFs, Words as well. Now, planning, very much married to reporting, where you'll start by creating a report and then turn it into an input form. Dashboard, seeing all your data on the web, and consolidating disparate data sources into one place. Now, this is really the last slide that I'll focus on before getting into the demo. But if we look at this, how those 4 areas fit within the entire architecture, over on the left-hand side where my cursor is, we report live from GP. Now, what does that mean? That means when you post a journal entry, you'll immediately see that in the reporting tool. It's similar to Management Reporter, but the difference is, 1, it's Excel-based, and 2, you're going to be able to report across all the modules that you have in your Great Plains system. So if you want to drill back into the subledger, if you want to do a receivable report, payable report, you're going to go through and be able to access whatever you have natively in Great Plains. Now, we built this, and we originally launched market and said, hey, great, we're going to build a reporting tool just for Great Plains and the other Dynamics products. But then what we found out, users started growing data sources. So for those of you that have a payroll system, perhaps ADP, Workday, UltiPro, have a point of sale system, what you can do is load that data into our data warehouse and then create reports off of that. Now, for those of you that are IT professionals, the data warehouse is usually a very scary word, anomalous with long deployments. In our case, it's really just a friendly user interface, so business and accounting folks can manage hierarchies. It handles things such as consolidations, allocations, multi-currency, and so on. Now, when you're done creating a report, what you do is turn it into an input form where you can store data back into that data warehouse. And if necessary, we can always push it back into your Great Plains system. And then last part is from an end user's perspective, there are dashboards that you can view on the web and formatted reports that you can drill into, and you can forecast and budget all on the web using the component that I'm hovering over. So before we get started, a few really important notes on this. I'm going through it and showing you the entire suite. which I realize can be slightly overwhelming because there's a lot of things this suite covers. That said, as I'm going through this, you're saying, all right, I just want reporting from Great Plains. That's fine. That could be a first phase, or that could be the only module you purchase. So just note, everything I'm showing you is very modular in nature. So you can go through and cherry pick exactly the tools that you need. And that's great if you're a smaller company and have a specific need, or if you're a company that kind of wants a phased approach, you can go through, just do the reporting piece, then maybe as a phase 2 next year, purchase and do budgeting, and then do dashboards and so on. We really pride ourselves as not being a point solution, but being the one vendor you go to for your business intelligence and corporate performance needs. So without further ado, let's get straight to the product. We'll start off, I'll go through and show you how it looks from an end user's perspective. Then we'll switch gears a little bit and say, all right, well, hey, this looks great, but what's the level of complexity of building this? And I'll actually build a report live from Great Plains, and then show you some additional functionality that's available with BI360. So let's get started. You're done implementing BI360, put yourself in the mindset, like I said, of that COO or CFO, what's your day consist of? So what I'll do is I'll open up Internet Explorer. You can access it through any web browser. And this is just a server that's on-premise or hosted. And what I'll do is go into my URL here. Okay? And as I do that, I'm going to log in with my credentials. Now this is actually really important because the security that you set up in BI360 is carried across all the applications. And the security is separate from your ERP system. Now, why this is important? Because based on what you log in as, that's going to be the specific department, division, even account that you're limited to see. So full security setting. Now, I'll go through it, and all has all of the various templates. But what I like to do, since again it's unique to my username, I'll go in here and toggle certain templates as my favorites. And that's advantageous because you can just go to the favorites folder and see the ones that are most relevant to you. You can keep everything organized. Also, another level of organization. Over here, we set it up so you have maybe your strategy and initiatives on one slide, and then in another folder you have your forecast that you go through and do, your budget with workflow, and then you can view the data that you actually input for reports. And then maybe have your dashboards and more your analytical material right underneath it. So your users can either organize this, or you as an administrator can organize these folders on their behalf. Point is, as opposed to going to 10 different tools and managing Excel spreadsheets, you have one neat place where you can go through and manage everything. So strategy, just from a high-level perspective, what we've seen is a lot of companies have these board meetings or management meetings, but nothing actually gets captured. So we said, great, we handle reporting and budgeting, but what we really want to do is go in and build out a strategy component. And what you do is set strategy, you can set goals that align to those strategies, and then also set initiatives based on those. So you can see who's responsible, what the task is, the strategic initiative, and the completion of it. Okay? Good. Instead of taking notes during meetings, really good place to keep everything that's going to then push into your budget. All right, so let's say now the bread and butter of our tool, we'll start off with a forecasting template. Really simple here. It's a departmental forecast. Like I said, security setting. So in my example, I'm an administrator, so I can see all of the various companies. But you'll be limited based on the settings. And maybe in this example, sure, I just want to see, let's say, finance and accounting as the department. And I want to pick up September here. Click refresh, and a new template is going to appear. I can expand this out a little bit. The purpose of this is to forecast for the rest of the year, right? And it ran for corporate US and finance and accounting because those are the departments I selected. Now you go in and you can change data here. I'm a solution architect, so I have some numbers previously input. For you, this is probably blank when you forecast. And as I'm doing that, I'll go after I'm finished and click Save Data. So that actually stores it back into the database. Now, for those of you that are coming off of Excel, if you're doing this in Excel, what would you have to do? If you now want, it's October and you want to forecast for the rest of the year. What you'd have to do is copy and paste the data from MR into this column, change the forecast, and save as. And by the way, you'd have to do that for every single department, company, and so on. Whereas here, what you're doing, and I'm just showing a really simple example, is you're going in and saying, great, it's now October. Click this refresh button, and the template is automatically going in and filling up October with actual data. Okay? So you have one template as opposed to many, and much more accurate, right? Because now you know this is pulling directly back from your database. You're eliminating the manual errors that can happen from copy and pasting, and you're saving a lot of time. Then you go in, type in your new numbers, and you can click Save Data again. Very easy to manage forecast scenarios here. So you can go in and say, forecast version 1, 2, and so on, and say that. Simple example, but you're starting to kind of get the feel of the forecasting and budgeting component. Now, let's say what we want to do is hone in and say, all right, well, now I'm ready for my annual budget, right? What I'll do is just to keep it really simple, I'll pretend I'm a budget manager that's going in there and adding assumptions that are going to be used in our payroll template. So I'll expand this out, and maybe I'll look at my taxes, benefits. This is capital life. It's going to be used for CapEx, maybe some travel assumptions. The really important point here is this is just a demo model, so these are just examples, right? You're going to be able to go in there and pick out whatever drivers you need. So all of these templates are created with our Excel add-in and then pushed up to the web for consumption. Again, what that means, if you have a driver template, maybe that has your economic condition, like how would our business and our P&L look like if it was low, mid, high, exact same concept. Here I'm just going to do it with FICA rate. So I'll go in and say, as a budget manager, my FICA rate is actually going to be 7.21. Store that back, okay? Now your users that are in charge of the departments, they don't really care that you as a budget manager did that. All they want to do is go in here and how about that? My internet connection is not the best here. All they want to do is go in and say, hey, my personnel, I'm a department head. Maybe I'm in charge of, say, finance and accounting or administration, whatever it is. Click OK, refresh this, okay? And now this template automatically went in. Here's your full-time, part-time employees for the administration department, because that's what I selected. It's going to store to the payroll module, and then right beneath it, it's going to store to the general ledger. And the way we created this is everything in yellow is what you input. So, pretty simple to understand here. We also have a direction tab for these. And again, right, as I'm showing these, you're going to be able to customize all this. So if you need to add a comment, or if you need to add an extra column here to do some sort of workers' comp, you can do that. Point is here, conceptually, maybe let's say Lewis is going to get a promotion to, senior salesperson. You can go in and say, when is that going to happen? Maybe that's going to happen in March. However, they're going to, November, go to business school or something along those lines. We can say, hey, in May, we want to increase the salary by 10% to incentivize them to come back. You can also do a $1 increase if you'd like. And then we'll change this and say, yeah, Lewis is actually eligible for benefits. Same thing with your part-time employees. What's really neat here is what you can actually do is set these up. So when you're about to hire a new employee, you set the month here, maybe set the rate and amount. It says to be hired number 2, right? When you hire someone, it's going to replace with their name. And store down in the general ledger. Now, as I did this, if we scroll over to the right, the system went in, automatically spread Lewis's salary. You see the zeros until March, right? Then you see the increase here in May, and then you can see it drop off in December. If I continue scrolling over, total compensation, and now for the taxes and benefits that are calculated, notice how it uses that 7.21 FICA rate. Why? Because that's what we previously input in the template. So you're no longer using links in Excel, you're entering data, and it's getting retrieved here to calculate everyone's taxes, benefits, and you can do the same thing for any drivers. Here in this example, just to finish it off, like a FUTA, SUTA, worker comp, benefits, and headcount. Okay? Now, if you have more of a, say, top-down approach, where you have centrally the Office of Finance inputting data for multiple departments, take a look at the flexibility. You can say, hey, I also want to see sales and marketing, HR, click OK, click this refresh button. You ask me if I want to store the changes. Sure, let's do that. And now when I expand the same template, what it did, it actually showed me administration, full-time, part-time employees, sort of the GL, okay? Right underneath it, sales and marketing, full-time, part-time employees, stored in the general ledger, HR, and stored to the general ledger. So it automatically went through and exploded. Now what you're probably thinking, if you're wondering on just the reporting side, yeah, very flexible tool that can blow out the rows and columns like that, which I'll go through and illustrate how it was actually built. Okay? But before I do, maybe the last template, which I think is the most important one, to demonstrate the capabilities here. And by the way, what I'm going to show you can do with any templates. It just happens to be in this operational expense one. I'll say, great, keep the month of September here. The purpose here is to create a budget for next year for operational expenses. So we have all these blank. Over on the right-hand side for comparison, right, since I picked September, and this is based on calendar year, it gave me 9 months of actual and 3 months of forecast. Now, where's that forecast coming from, right? Forecast is coming from the very first template that I showed to you. Now, if I scroll down, same concept here applies, right? If I go in here and actually budget something for salary, for the Department of Sales and Marketing, it's going to go through and appear. Okay? Now, how do I enter data? Well, I could type it in. I could use formulas in Excel. But what I can also do, maybe for office supplies, what I want to do is actually say, hey, what are we spending money on? Well, I can right-click, and right beneath it, for office supplies, I can add line item details. So I can do paper, add the amount here. I could do pens and anything else that's relevant that rolls into office supplies. Now I'm just using kind of a really simple example for office supplies, but you can see how for travel and entertainment, maybe which law firms you guys spend money on, which all rolls into legal, all of that can be extremely beneficial now because it adds a level of granularity to your process. And what you'll see in a second, right, any of these templates, you can go in and actually drill back into both the summary, subledger, and get the line item details later. Okay? So, if I go in and drill in, you can see the paper, pens, and so on. Now, maybe for other supplies, we don't want it as granular here. We just want it more simple. We want to take actual and forecast, and we're growing as a business, so other supplies are also going to grow. What you can do is click. There are many spreading mechanisms. You can do seasonal if you're retail. You can actually create custom ones as well. In our example, I'll just query the history, say great, apply. You can see that it was pushed down, right, for the exact same seasonality as it was for current year to date plus forecast. Except, like I said, our business is going to grow by 8%. When I click apply, every month is going to adjust by 8% without you having to manually do that in every cell. Okay? Click OK, and great, right? Now I have this budget. And by the way, like I previously said, if I want to run it for a different department, say I want to run it for finance, accounting, really easy to do here. Instead of maybe budget version 2, I have a budget. I can go and say great, refresh, and now what it'll do is run the same template for finance and accounting, and for budget. And by the way, yeah, this has previous information, and accounts our budget and other forms are filled out here because we stored it to budget. And then, the dashboard component, I'll show it to you separately, but really powerful. And maybe if your users aren't engaged as much as they should in their budget, just creating a really simple dashboard like this incentivizes them, right? For your operational expenses, goes in, just shows you the expenses that you budget, top expenses here, announced by GL. And the point is here, if you care about purchasing, which we just entered data into, click, and you can see the trend here change, right? Including the line item details that people input. So click, and you can see all of the information change. Okay. Now, let's say, great, you're done. As an administrator, last thing I'll touch on for the budgeting component before getting into the rest is full workflow. So if I expand this out a bit, you can see all the users that are using on the x-axis here, and all of the various templates that they're inputting. So you can see you can set a start end date, so end users cannot input data after a certain time. You can see that, for example, Demo 2 has assumptions and payroll hidden, so they're not going to be able to see that at all. Meanwhile, the revenues and cost of sale detail, that one, they actually already store the data by clicking this check mark, which is disabled in the demo model, and it's up for approval. Okay, and you can approve them, and as soon as you do, it goes into closed. And demo user 4 here, Slack, and he's opened up all the templates but hasn't input anything. And by the way, full audit trail, so you can see who input data and when they input. Okay. So let's get out of here for a second. Let's say, great, I get it. I can do all sorts of budgeting, financial as well as operational. Anything you currently do in Excel. Here's an example where you have your customers, products, sales, and COGS. You can go in and say, here's the quantity. Here's the gross margin for January. You can scroll over, do the same thing for March, and so on. So not limited to general ledger at all, really flexible with subledger. Okay? But we got that. Now let's take a look down, and for those of you guys who are just interested in the reporting component, same portal, but what I'm going to do here is go down. I got my forecast, got my budget. Clearly, not going to show this, but just note, you can create a quick report that shows you everything you budgeted, right? So maybe after you're done with personnel, you run a report such as this that goes through and pulls all the employees, their total salary, which you can expand and see by months. Okay, and the same thing for if you want to consolidate all of your different departments, what their operational expense would be. And you scroll down here in your report, and you just run an OpEx report, okay? Like maybe something like this for all of the companies. All right, now right underneath, we're ready now on a daily basis. We just want to analyze some of the data. And maybe for those of you that are not interested in budgeting yet, this is great, but something you could add later. And we just go through, add it to the portal, you'll implement, and then you can set that up. Now let's transition out a little bit and say, all right, well, on a daily basis, what are my reports looking like? What are my dashboards? Folder right beneath here, right beneath budgeting. We have a benchmarking dashboard, executive showing you a holistic overview of the business, maybe something for the CFO, and then getting more granular in nature, right? And then as we continue scrolling through, because yes, there are a lot of various companies doing this, but what I really haven't seen anyone do is combine the formatted reports along with it. And here we see a P&L, cash flow. Yeah, these are things you can do in MR, just not nearly as unified in one place. But then a sales report, payable, receivable, clearly things you're not going to be able to do in Management Reporter, right? Because this is subledger. Along with, here we took data from Google Analytics, so you can actually report off of other data sources. Now, let's take a look for the finance folks in the room, just at a simple P&L, how would a manager look at it? And I'll expand this out a little bit, right? And we have the actual for the month, last year, maybe it's year date and last year date. the point here is it was ran for this company, but for you it could be any department, any division, any product line, whatever is relevant. And it was ran for the month of February. What can you do here? Now you can drill into any of this data. So if I'm not sure this is 1.6 mil, I can right-click, drill into summary, and then I'll show this in a later example, you can drill in subledger. So your AP, journal entry, whatever. Click, and really it goes through and fetches the underlying detail. Okay. If you add a new account in GP, right, say you add 40035, instead of going in and manually doing something, you click a button and it's going to refresh, okay, and show up with a new row. How, you're probably asking? Well, we step back and actually built the template out. You're going to see how it was done. Okay? But for now, what we want to do is say, great, I have this template built, and immediately what we heard on demos is, hey, I want to dump this back into Excel actually. So you click a share button. This provides a QR reader that you can scan on your phone. You can actually send a link, and again, we have mobile apps, both in Google Play and the Apple Store. And what I'll actually do is go in and say, hey, I want to download this back into Excel. I'll say P&L, you can do something like testing, click Save. You can see that the download was completed, and that's advantageous because now I can just go to my desktop, open up this P&L, okay, and do all of my analysis in Excel. So you're really combining kind of the best of both versions, Excel and a web front end, right? And here, if I take a look at this and say, well, I know my, right before month end, a lot of accountants like to do this, my product revenue is actually going to grow to 1 point. I just want to see the influence it has on my company. When I click enter, okay, all the data here changes, right? And that's because all of the formulas, so minus sign, an if statement, all of those were retained in the spreadsheet. And that's, again, because like I'm going to show, this template was originally built in Excel. But now you're saying, all right, well, what if I do want to run it actually for a different company and say I want to run it for a different month? How do I do? Well, back on the portal, and a really important concept in our software, you can go in and say, hey, I want to run it for corporate Asia. Again, as a reminder, this is where security kicks in. And maybe I want to run it now for the month of March. Click this refresh button. A brand new report will get generated. By the way, as it gets generated, you can always go back and reference previous reports over on the left-hand side, which could be advantageous. And here I'm combining corporate Asia, looking at corporate Asia. If I want to compare to corporate US here, I just can toggle between the different reports. But anyways, here you see corporate Asia for the month of March, and you get its revenues and expenses. So clearly now the report reflects the parameters you chose. And oddly enough, I show this, and this is great for the number folks, but the executives, they're like, hey, go back to those dashboards. And what's neat is it's all logically integrated. So if I'm looking at my revenue here, and great, what I really want to see is a visual interpretation of it. I can scroll down, and right beneath here is a supporting revenue dashboard. I'll increase this in size a little bit. And I can see your product sales, service sales, maintenance. This is loosely based on our business, but you'll be able to customize this. And learning the dashboard component really takes typically, I'd say, an hour or two for a non-technical user. Really straightforward. It's just drag and drop. Point is here, if you go in and click one of the companies, you can interact with your dashboard, right? So you can see that everything changes. I'm analyzing service sales, and I want to see corporate Asia. Click. I can see the data underneath here change. And same here. You'll build in your own logic. In this pie chart example, we're saying which quarter had the most revenue, and I care about corporate US. Click, and I can see that 28% of revenue came from the fourth quarter. Okay. Few more dashboards here. This one just illustrating the power of that warehouse that you can load disparate data sources in. We actually took data from Yahoo Finance and loaded in, which has your company, maybe some industry averages, and 2 other companies in the space. And next year, instead of recreating, you pick out the new year, click a refresh button, and the new dashboard will generate. Okay? Again, really nice way for someone to go in, see the data and be able to interact with it. But as they're looking at it, right, maybe they're looking at a receivable and they're saying, hey, why is computer equipment leasing so high? What they can do is scroll down here and now look at a receivable report, right, to see the top 10 receivable. They can run it for current month, they can run it for a company, and they can actually go and look back at the invoice. So if I allow this, it goes through, opens, and pulls in the actual invoice that supports that receivable. Okay. And now what I really want to do is transition out a little bit and say, all right, you know, where was a report such as this HR report, maybe such as this, you know, let's say a excuse me, payable report, sales report, where were these kind of reports built and what's the level of complexity or hopefully lack thereof? And what I'll do is open the Excel add-in and build out a template from scratch. But before I do, just to summarize, what I showed you, end user's perspective, where you have everything in one portal. And you know, we have a lot of various demo models. What I'm showing you right now, and if I kind of log out of here quickly, is just an example specific to our standard model. You know, if I go in and you're a distribution company as an example, and I log in there with those credentials, okay, now the reports are, needless to say, a lot more tailored. So we have customer sales, you know, maybe customer ratings, you can see how your various distribution centers are doing, and so on. And we have a lot of these pre-built vertical models. Okay? All right, so let's get out of here and let's build a report from scratch. Now, a little bit of a different perspective. This is where, great, you know, what's the accountant that's building this from scratch, what's their day going to look like? So what I'll do is I'll open Excel, okay, and I'll just select the Acumatica test database that Microsoft provides for GP. What you might immediately notice, all of the tabs in Excel are still in place. However, you now have BI360 planning and reporting. You have an existing template. By the way, you can select new current, continue building. In our example, I'll select that new blank. SQL output for the technical folks, but really our tool is meant not for IT professionals, it's meant for simple business users. And to illustrate that, you'll see that all the SQL table names are translated in simple business terms. So department's department, account's account, and so on. And I'll pick up GP, and it's Acumatica test database that they provide. Over on the left-hand side, what it's populating is all the modules, right? So again, MR, you can just report off general ledger. With our tool, all the concepts are transferable, and you can report across any of the modules that you have in GP. And for our specific example, I actually built a module from finance, but you'll be able to use all the same concepts to build any of these operational reports as well. Let's go in and let's say, great, you know, enough talking, let's build one. So I'll say, hey, I want to build a trial balance. And maybe on the row, you know, what I want to do is pull in the account, pull in the, you know, description for that account, and let's just do year to date compared to last year to date, along with a variance. Notice how I'm just typing in Excel. What's really beneficial here is the learning curve with our tool is significantly lower than some of the you know, new cloud-based ERP solutions, excuse me, CPM solutions, and that's because from a formatting and formula perspective, everything that you currently do in Excel you can leverage. So much lower barrier to entry with this. And I'll just do some, you know, real light formatting, but you can do anything you want here. Now, how is this different than Excel, right? And that's where what I'm going to do is leverage this layout editor to actually manipulate my data. So I'll go in here and say I want to pull in my account string. And by the way, I'm opening this up, right? For you, this is immediately going to look down at your segments. So this is going to be, your own location, department, whatever account string segments you guys have. What I'll do is pull in the natural into the row. There's only 3 concepts here: row, column, and sheet. I'll pick up row, go into my layout editor, and cherry pick the accounts that I want on this report. Okay? I'll say I want all of these all the way down to, say, my 8s, right? I don't want my 9s there because they're my unit accounts. Now, what's the huge benefit of doing this? And if you remember on the web, I showed you that P&L and said, hey, if you add a new account in your ERP, it's going to automatically show up. Well, here it is, right? If you go in and add account 8355 right here in between in Great Plains, this system's going to automatically pick it up. And that's because it uses ranges. So whereas a lot of times in MR, you have to go back and add that account and have a manual process for month end, here it does it for you automatically, saving a lot of time. And as good practice in my consulting days, coming back, I want to say 8999, right? In case I ever want to add a new account. So I'll click OK, and then the rest should be pretty logical. I want to drag in the description of that account, drag and drop. I can make a little room for myself here. Scroll down, maybe want to see the period change here. So drag and drop, and then the variance here is just a formula. And I'm using a very simple one with subtraction, but if you have if statements, VLOOKUPs, HLOOKUPs, all of those you can use. And then the last step here really, to give you guys a conceptual feel of our tool, is we want to differentiate the column somehow, so it knows to pull in year date and last year date. So I'll go into these functions, a lot of pre-built functions, and by the way, you can build your own as well. And I'm pulling in year date and last year date. But for you, if you're doing Q1 of this year compared to Q1 of last year, exact same concept. And maybe go in, add some very light formatting here, adding a total. Could have used Excel to do that as well. And typing in total here, and now I'm ready to run this report. Now, what exactly does that mean, run this report? Well, everything I've been doing so far has actually been in design mode. And let me let the end user select the period. What I'm doing, I'm creating a parameter. These are just all formatting, okay? And I'll get back to that in just a second, show you what I'm doing so quickly here, okay? So I'll go and say, great, I want the end user to select the period. Who is the end user? Well, the end user is the same thing as on the web, right? They don't care about the actual design. This is happening once. All they're doing is going in here and saying, well, I want to see June of 2014, and it's just where the test database is. Clicking run, and say, great, here are my accounts, descriptions, year date, last year date, along with the variance listed on the row. Okay. Next month, let's say you add account 4888, right? All you do here is click this run button, and it will automatically appear. Also, everything is really from a database, so if someone goes in and makes a mistake or does something like that, no worries if they didn't save. I mean, all you do is just click this button again, and it reruns that same report. Also, and this is where I think a lot of the accountants in the room are going to have a smile on their face, you can go down and say, hey, what I want to do is actually drill back into the subledger, right? When I drill in, instead of summary, I picked up my subledger, and in this example, pulled in the account category, the currency, customer number, customer name, the source. If I continue scrolling through, actually the vendor, okay, batch number, debit, credit, and so on. Okay? So really powerful. And if you're wondering, hey, can I customize this? And maybe I just want to see AP and beginning and ending balance or something like that. Yes, you can. Absolutely. You can customize these non-technically. But I promised to show you those parameters. What it is right, when you're designing the report from scratch, Maybe, hey, I want to be able to run this by my different divisions. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll go back in and create a sheet filter. Okay, the same thing, I'm just creating a parameter, which again just says the end user is able to select that. So if you guys remember, we had company on the portal. Now I'm doing the same thing except for division. And click next, just your style here. Maybe what I will do is actually do sheet per value. Pretty powerful button. What it does is creates a separate tab for every division. And expand this out a little bit. Add the division description here. And great. Now what the user does when they go in here and run this, okay, they'll say, I want to see accounting. Click OK and run, and they'll just see accounting, all with the ability of going in here and drilling live into a subledger. Okay. Now, if they want to say, well, now I want to switch this and I want to see service installation, great. You don't need to create a new report. You just select that new division now and see the data. But if you kind of remember, I created that sheet per value. I selected that little button, and that means if I want to go in and select 3 divisions and run it, it'll now give me a separate one for every, it'll give me one tab for accounting, another one for service installation, and then another one for consulting and training. Okay. Now, from here, I'm showing you how it can be done in Excel, but what you do is you can go in and push that report up to the portal. And what that does, let's pretend, sure, we'll save this as trial balance. And when I click that upload to report, now when your end user goes in, after you organize, they can log in and see the same report, okay, and have this view on the web. So it's really going to be your choice if you want to do Excel or web. But we could talk about that at greater length with your account rep at Research Group. But before I proceed and completely get off the Excel-based piece, we have a lot of pre-built templates that you can leverage for various industries. No tools as simple as, hey, just click a magic button and they appear with your own data, but really good starting points, right? So a lot of these guys are modeling templates. A lot of them are forecasting, all of which you can leverage. Now, maybe just taking a look at one specific one. I'll go back down here and take a look at this decision pack, one of my favorites. The point here is all of these tabs are going to fill up with numbers, okay? So right now, if we look at it, maybe we'll just look at the receivable, right? We can see it's all gibberish, but what this will do is pull in your top 10 here, okay? And I could change this if I want, top 15. Payments, all of this is going to fill up with words and numbers, okay, in order to roll into a news tab. This here right now it says descriptions, monitor improvement, period end. Instead of typing in how you're doing every month or however often your manager needs analysis, what they can do themselves is go in here and say, well, I want to see how maybe corporate US is doing. I want to see actuals compared to budget, which I'm storing in our system. And instead of October, I actually want to see September, last month's data. Click this run button. And what it's doing now, all of these tabs are going to fill up with information as it changes in your database, okay? And it's all going to roll into a news tab. Okay? And what you see here in a matter of seconds, you're going to see a significant speed improvement, by the way, if you're used to using MR. What you see is corporate US, because that's the company we selected, sees great improvement in the month of September because of what we selected. We'll close out of here if we'd like. Shows how profitable you were, your revenue, your customers, top products, who we owe money, and who owes us money. And if that's not enough and you want to see more information, here's a quick dashboard. This is just an Excel chart, really, but as your debt equity ratio changes, right, this is going to automatically change without you having to manually do anything. Trend, so since we picked September, the accounts expanded out, P&L, and we saw kind of how the rows expanded down when we built out the trial balance. Same thing on the column level. So since September, it goes in and pulls 9 months of actual. Needless to say, for October, this will pull in 10 months, right? Quick cash flow statement, balance sheet, a few more charts in Excel, sales report, where you can see, if you click the plus sign, which is expanding, you can see the salesperson, date they sold it, the quantity and the unit price of the sale. You can see the vendor payments, which you can hit the plus and see the transaction date and receivable. And point here, similar to what we did with trial balance, if you go in next month, and Castle and Resort is no longer in the 10th place, maybe there's another customer that owes us more than $70,053, well, we'll now see that new customer there, right? And as we see that new customer, your news feed is going to change automatically to reflect that. Okay. Last template that I wanted to show is, I'll go back into my assignments, and this is more of a forecasting template, but very useful in my opinion. I'll go in here and go into a modeling example. Here what it's showing you, truly anything you currently do in Excel, you can do. And based on the month you pick, it's going to go through, give you the actual year date, and the purpose of this is to reforecast the remainder of the year more accurately. Okay? So since I picked September here, I'll close out of here, it gave us 9 months of actual in column H, okay, and the annualized actual. So what would the year look like if seasonality continued? And it actually divides year to date by the percentage of, in this example, the product revenue, right, that's happened last year. So if 60% of the revenue is happening in the last 3 months, it's going to notate that here. But that's not the point of this. The point is, if you go through, gave you 9 months, you want to reforecast. You want to go down here and say, well, great, if the year continued based on seasonality, yeah, it's great, it'd be at 515,000. But we know we're getting a massive new customer, or we are, acquiring someone, so we want to do a pro forma. What you can do is say, well, I actually want to be at 1 point, let's say 2 million, okay, as the desired net income. Oops, sorry, struggling here. And as I make that change, the what if changes, okay, all the forecast changes, every account adjusts its proportion in the P&L in order to keep that 1.2 million in place. Okay? And then, if you want to do that by, say, department, by revenue, absolutely, right? Great for what if analysis. So maybe I'll go in and say, I don't want my revenue growing 10%. You're looking at this and you're saying, it has to be over 21 mil. As you make these changes and click enter, the what if changes on all of them, every account changes, and the reason for doing that, okay, is you'll go and say, great, save data, okay, push this out to your end users, and what your end users can do is actually go in and say, and let me just for example, say, hey, operational expenses are going to grow 10%, specifically in, let's say, administration, okay, 5% increase. Now your end users can go down here, scroll down and say, great, to sales and marketing 10%, that's fine, but maybe your administration guy that you increased them by 5% and 10%, they'll go in and say, yeah, there's no way our interest is going to grow that high, so I want to decrease this, right, by 5%. That changes, and as that changes, if we scroll down to the very bottom, that 1.2 million is still in place. Okay. So yeah, just using Excel. Last thing I want to show, this is our ad hoc tool, and I'll go through this really quickly and then break for Q&A. Point here is, and I'll just do purchasing because we've been using finance. Also live from GP, really simple tool, very similar to Smart List for those of you that are using it. Step 1, you drag fields you want to see in the white space. Step 2, you filter that data. Step 3, you organize. So maybe drag and drop vendor or double click, vendor name. Maybe I want to see the due date. Just go into here and see due date. Maybe I want to see the document amount, document date, whatever else. Okay, and also the period, right? So as I go in and refresh this, it's going to give me all the data that's in my database. Okay? But I say, hey, I want to specifically maybe just see, instead of seeing data for 2013 and 2017, I just want to see the first few months of 2014, right? Drag and drop, select the magnifying glass, go in here and say, great, I want to see the first, say, 5 months, click OK, and now it's going to filter. And then step 3, organize the data. So if I want to see the months broken out side by side, I can expand this. If I want to group the vendor, I can group them, maybe add a total, and now I can see the total by vendor. Okay? Everything else is really just an iteration of those concepts. If instead of seeing the periods, I want to see the vendors here broken out on the column, I can go ahead and do that. If I just want to see a travel office company and maybe another vendor, I'll drag and drop here into our filter and say, I want to see a travel company, maybe this one, and this one. Click OK, refresh, okay, and now I'll just see those 4. And then maybe I want to group the month here. Last, what you can do from here is you can export it to Excel, PDF, or you can use this tool and then transport this into the tool I previously showed, which is the report designer. The purpose of this, this is great for ad hoc analysis. If you want to quickly who you owe money to, or how your revenues are doing by month, how they're trending, that's an easy answer to get out of here. If you want more of a formatted report that you're going to present to someone, then I would recommend exporting it into the tool that you just saw, doing some formatting, okay, and then deciding, great, do I want my end user to be able to run this here, okay, in Excel, or do I want to go in here and export this to the web, which I started the demo with. And if, by the way, your answer is, hey, I don't want the web, I just want to keep it really simple in Excel, we have a module where you can push out reports to end users. Okay? And what that does is goes in, you can set up users that are going to receive that and figure out how they're going to receive it. So subscribers is, hey, who's going to receive these? You can add people with Active Directory, by the way, and Windows Single Sign-On here. And then after I'm done setting up my subscribers, I set up subscriptions for them. So name is what's going to appear in the body of the email, is what's going to appear in the subject line of the email. This is what's going to appear in the body of the email. Then you can go in and add reports. Okay, so which ones do I want to see here? And then after the reports get added, we'll do this one's from Corp. You can say, hey, I always want these to go out for the current period. So you can say current. Okay? And then last question is, great, who's going to receive them and how? Maybe we'll receive them as Excel workbooks, emailed, and we want Nellie or maybe the various department heads to receive that. And we also want this converted into a PDF, okay, and saved to a folder for a different group of users. And then last is, hey, when do I want this system to push reports out? Daily, weekly, and you can set that up. Okay. So what I want to do now is go back and answer any questions and kind of just quickly review everything we saw. Again, I get it, a lot of stuff here, but if this looks interesting to you, we can definitely schedule a requirements call, and subsequently I'll go through and tailor a demonstration specifically to your requirement. But to summarize, what we looked at today, we started off by going through the dashboarding component, which is really how your end users are going to see all this data, how they're going to be able to interact with dashboards, and how your different department heads can input their budget with workflow. Then we switched mind and said, hey, let's build a report. I just chose the finance module because I wanted to compare it to MR. You can build your subledgers there as well and drill into it, like I showed you. Then, I showed you a little bit more of an advanced report that gave you analytics from all the modules and put words on it. Point is, again, you create it once, and then you're able to reuse this report over and over, hence automating a lot of your manual process. And then I finished off by just showing you our ad hoc tool, which is analogous to Smart List. You don't have to purchase it if you don't need that. Just a nice add-in that I wanted to demonstrate. And then the last piece is I showed you how you can push out reports to end users if you decide to go down the Excel route. So I know we have only a few minutes left, and what I'll do here is read off a few questions. And if you have any questions at all, let me just switch my screen here. If you have any follow-up questions, you can reach out to myself or the resource group. And give me 1 second here.
And Alex, this is Craig again. While you were waiting for your screen to change, I was just going to say, to be mindful of everybody's time, I show that we're just a minute or so before 3 o'clock. Be mindful of everybody's time. If there are a lot of follow-up questions that we're unable to address right now, yes, please shoot those to Holly or myself as your customer account managers for the resource group, and we'll make sure we get those answers to you.
Yeah, that's actually perfect timing as I'm having technical difficulties right at the end of this. Yeah, one of the questions, and I know we have like one minute left, was that came up, and I think I did answer it, but was, I'm looking at this and they ask, can you just buy the reporting piece? And the answer is yes, absolutely. If you just want to replace MR, it's a really low sort of implementation. Yeah, you could do that. And then if you want, you can add the modules. If not, if you just want to replace MR, have subledger reporting, completely fine. Okay. We are at top of the hour here. 3 p.m. on Pacific Standard Time. So I lastly just wanted to thank everyone for your time. I really appreciate it. Hopefully what I showed today is a good overview of the product. And like I said, please reach out to Holly and Craig, and then they'll do a more in-depth requirements and schedule a personalized demo if necessary. Thank you so much, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
All right, thanks again, Alex. Great job. Really appreciate your time.